Mom, is Dad coming soon? Did you call him? Tori, you know he always calls himself. We shouldn't distract him while he's on the road, Maria replied to her daughter. He left early this morning. He promised to hang the swings. Tori, please don't whine. If Dad promised, he will definitely do it. Let's rather bake our favorite cake for when he arrives. With coconut flakes and pineapple sauce? Tori's eyes lit up. Yes, exactly. Who makes the best pineapple sauce for us? Me. You put pineapple chunks in the blender, pour in half a cup of agave syrup, cover it, and blend all that goodness. The girl clapped her hands. Absolutely right, my little berry. Maria kissed her daughter on the nose. It was almost 9 in the evening. The cake cooled on the kitchen table, and the pineapple sauce was put away in the fridge as the mother and daughter sat in the living room waiting for Miguel. Suddenly, Maria's phone rang. It's Dad. She joyfully announced to her daughter. Yes, Miguel. Mrs. Diaz? An unfamiliar voice came from the other end of the line. Yes, this is she, Maria replied, puzzled. Your husband? Miguel Diaz. He is dead. What? What are you saying? Who is this? Maria jumped up from the couch and rushed out of the living room. Captain Javier Alonso. We found your husband's car on the highway. He was apparently heading home. Accident. A truck crossed into his lane. The driver fell asleep at the wheel. Please accept my sincere condolences. You will need to come for identification. I will send you the details of where and when within an hour. Again, my condolences. Silence. Hello. Hello. Maria shouted into the phone, unable to hold back the tears streaming down her cheeks. Mommy, what happened? Why are you crying? Tori tugged at her mother's dress. Where's Dad? Sweetie. Dad. He won't come back today. When? When will he come back? The girl kept asking. Why are you crying? Tell me. Tori, Dad, he's gone. He was in a terrible accident. Maria couldn't lie to her daughter, even though she really didn't want to traumatize her. She just couldn't lie, that's all. No. That's not true. Dad is alive. He'll be back soon, and we'll eat cake together. Tori pressed herself against her mother and buried her face in the folds of her colorful dress. Victoria. Sweetheart, forgive me for having to bring you this pain. I'm also. It's very hard for me to accept this, but we need to be strong. Mom, someone lied to you. It was a mean man who called you and lied to make us cry, to make us feel bad. Tori cried out loudly. The next day was very scary for Maria. The only time she felt so scared was when her little cousin died. Maria was 7 then. She approached the cradle and realized that little Laura wasn't breathing. And now she stood in the morgue, and a person in a medical suit was pulling back the white sheet from the face of the man lying on the stretcher. Yes, it was her Miguel. There was dried blood on his nose, a cut brow, busted lips. But those were his brows, his lips that she kissed with such delight. That was his straight, slightly crooked nose, his hair the color of raven's wings. This was her husband, her beloved Miguel, Tori's father. There's no doubt. This is my husband. Maria covered her face with her hands. Everything felt like a haze. The medic was saying something to her, the police officer was asking something, but the poor thing didn't understand anything, absolutely nothing. The world collapsed in an instant. Her dear Miguel was no more. No one and never will embrace her the way he did. No one will call her a fluffy fish. No one. Maria's friend and Miguel's former classmate Leonardo helped with the funeral, conveniently dropping by to visit his friend as he was passing through. It was a very tough time for Maria. She lost the closest person to her. The spouses understood each other without words. They felt good together even when they just sat silently on the porch and looked at the stars. And how he loved their little Tori. He was ready to become a superhero just to delight the girl with something unusual. Sometimes Maria felt like it wasn't him playing with their daughter, but she playing with him. Dinner. Maria shouted from the kitchen. Wait, my fluffy fish. Miguel shouted back from the living room. We haven't finished building the house for the teddy bear yet. Maria was amazed. How could one person combine a reliable, purposeful husband, a family man, and a little child who was ready to play with his daughter for hours with building blocks or making something out of cardboard or clay? Tori adored her dad, couldn't spend a day without him. Sometimes Maria felt like her daughter loved her father many times more than her. She wasn't offended by this. The woman understood it was impossible not to love Miguel. His loud, somewhat boyish laughter alone made Maria and Tori burst into laughter. They couldn't even understand why they were laughing, they just laughed and that was it. And how Miguel told fairy tales to his daughter. Maria herself listened intently, sitting next to them. This man was so good at portraying different characters. Sometimes he would growl like a bear, then squeak like a little mouse, or even pretend to be an old frog and croak hoarsely. Victoria literally rolled on the floor with laughter and joy. And now the beloved husband and father were no more. Only numerous memories remained, which the daughter and mother cherished in their hearts. Tori started sleeping poorly, so Maria allowed her to stay in the bedroom they used to share with her husband. It was terrifying for her to be alone in the room at night. The mother tried to pay more attention to her daughter, although she had to think about finding a job. After all, now they had no one else to rely on. Although that wasn't entirely true, Leo, Miguel's best friend, was very helpful. He lived in the neighborhood and often visited Maria and Tori, brought them groceries, offered help. One day, Mr. Bustamante, the landlord of the house they had been renting for several years, called Maria. Maria, unfortunately, I have to terminate our agreement, he said. I've put the house up for sale. By the way, wouldn't you like to buy it from me? Mr. Bustamante, what are you talking about? My daughter and I have recently lost Miguel. Soon we won't even have money to pay the rent. I'm sorry, I didn't know about your misfortune, he replied. How much time do we have? Maria asked. 2 weeks. The month is just ending. I understand that terminating the agreement is very sudden. To somehow compensate, I won't charge you for the last month. Thank you, Mr. Bustamante. You're very kind. What was the unfortunate widow to do with her 6-year-old daughter in her arms? How to cope with the overwhelming grief, along with the forced search for new housing and employment. Maria felt like she was locked in some dark, stuffy room, unable to escape, fearing she wouldn't last another second, suffocating from despair, ready to give up. But then she found strength within herself and tried to overcome the nightmare that had swiftly invaded their lives with her daughter. She needed to live, if only for Tori, this wonderful, sensitive girl with a pure soul and a huge, kind heart. Her daughter sometimes made her smile. How much she resembles Miguel, my dear Tori, thought the mother, looking at her child. Finding housing was proving impossible, either too expensive, or appalling conditions, or far from school. Changing schools was absolutely out of the question. Victoria had already undergone terrible stress. Any change could lead to a nervous breakdown. Maria was in a panic. She had no idea what to do, so she called Leonardo. Hello, dear, he greeted, picking up the phone. Hello, Leo. I'm sorry to bother you, but Tori and I really need help. What happened? I'll do whatever I can. We just need to move out of our house in 3 days. Senor Bustamante, the landlord, called and said he put the house up for sale. I'm looking for housing, but so far, nothing suitable. Do you happen to know anyone who's renting an apartment or a room not too far from Tori's school? I'll be there in an hour. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Leonardo spoke so calmly and confidently that Maria felt a slight ease in her heart. Their things were almost packed. All the furniture belonged to Senor Bustamante, so their modest belongings fit into 3 boxes and 2 bags. Ready to move? Leo asked from the doorway. Uncle Leo, did you come to play with me? Tori ran out of her room upon hearing Leonardo's voice. No, sweetheart, I came to take you and Mommy with me. You'll stay with me for now, and we'll see what happens next. Plus, the school is very close. Leo, but we can't move in with you, Maria began. Why? He asked, surprised. Can't I help friends in a tough time? Besides, Miguel. Girls, we're leaving. Let's order pizza for dinner. How does that sound? Pizza sounds great, said Tori and rushed back to her room. Thank you, Leo, Maria said quietly. I'll always remember the kindness you show to us and Tori. Miguel is so lucky to have a friend like you. Not only him. I'm also lucky to have a friend like Miguel. Leonardo's voice trembled, and he turned away from Maria so she wouldn't notice the tears in his eyes. Leonardo lived alone, like a bachelor. He had recently returned from abroad and bought a small house. He was a wonderful person, but seemed not made for family life. Miguel always said that only a woodland fairy, as carefree as him, could capture Leo's heart, especially if that mythical being gave him a couple of transparent wings. Everyday life plunged this eccentric into apathy and green melancholy. Leo allocated a room upstairs for Maria and her daughter. His own room was just a meter away from theirs. Don't worry, no one will bother you here. I'll guard your sleep, Leo joked sadly. Are there ghosts here? Tori asked, widening her eyes. No, of course not. Do you think there's any ghost in the world that could handle someone like me? No way, kiddo. They haven't invented one like that yet, Leo replied. Victoria laughed. She laughed rarely now, spending more time sitting silently and thinking. Maria didn't ask, didn't disturb her daughter. She was sure Tori was thinking about her father, missing him. She never fully accepted his death. Mom, I think maybe Dad didn't actually die. You were mistaken back then. It was just someone who looked like him, not our dad, the girl suddenly said before bedtime. Oh, sweetie, how I wish that were true, that I was mistaken, and he just went away on urgent business and... Tears clouded the woman's eyes, making it hard to speak because of the lump rising in her throat. So the 3 of them had been living like this for several months. Each had their own business. Maria found a job at the local bakery, Tori went to school and joined a drama club, Leo continued his work, delivering groceries to supermarkets. The pain of loss didn't go away, it just dulled slightly. Time doesn't heal, it only helps to come to terms with grief or loss. One day Tori started an adult conversation. Mom, do you love Uncle Leo? The girl looked attentively at her mother. Well, of course, I love Leo, as a friend. What does as a friend mean? It means I don't want to marry him, for example, like I did with your dad, but he's dear to me as a person. I'm grateful to him and ready to help if Leonardo ever needs anything. Oh, Tori said. So if I love Uncle Leo as a friend, I'm not betraying Dad. What if he gets upset with me up there, in heaven? He's my dad after all, I should love him all my life, the girl pondered. Sweetheart, you're not betraying your dad if you love someone else. Leo is Dad's best friend, besides being a very good person. Your dad won't be upset, he'll be happy that his little Tori is smiling, not sad and crying in a corner, Maria reassured her. You know, Mom, I still feel like Dad is somewhere nearby. Right, he'll always remain in our hearts, Maria said sadly. We must cherish the fondest memories of Dad. Then his soul will be very well in heaven. Maria pulled her daughter closer, and they sat there for a while, each lost in her own thoughts. How good it was that they had each other. Together they would definitely manage. One day Tori sat on a bench while other children played happily, chasing each other or kicking a ball. Why aren't you playing with the others? Senorita Ruffo, the teacher, asked. I don't want to. I feel sad. We're going to the cemetery tomorrow. It's been half a year already since my dad died, the girl sniffed. I understand, my dear. It's tough. You know, let's write a letter to your dad. You'll tell him how you feel about the events in your life, your successes and sorrows. Can we do that? And will he definitely read it? Of course, sweetheart. His soul is alive and sees everything happening to you. And this letter will help you at least a little to free yourself from the heavy feeling of losing your beloved dad. You can put this letter on his grave. I did that when my grandmother died, constantly wrote her letters and told her what was happening with me. You know, it made things easier, kid. Tori smiled sadly and hugged her teacher. After the walk, they wrote a letter to Miguel. It was quiet at the cemetery, only birds flew from branch to branch, chirping and chatting with each other. Maria sobbed softly as she adjusted the flowers she had brought with her, while Leo gazed into the distance as if he could see something important there, the answer to some secret question. Tori didn't cry. Instead, she took out a letter from her little purse and pinned it to a plaque. What's that? Maria asked her daughter. It's a letter for Daddy. We wrote it together with Senorita Ruffo, my teacher. I see, her mother replied shortly, also staring into the distance as if waiting for her beloved Miguel to suddenly appear from behind the trees, laughing boyishly, running over, picking her up, and spinning her around the cemetery. But there's no laughter here, no spinning women, no one telling them funny stories. Here, people usually either stay silent or cry, remembering those who are no longer with them. They stood for a little while longer and then walked away. They walked away into the ordinary world, where people bustle about, cars rush somewhere, where people laugh, argue, sometimes without even realizing that reconciliation may not be possible. Dear Dad, I know you're in heaven right now, seeing everything that's happening to me and Mom. We miss you so much. I miss our games and your stories. No one gives me daisies anymore. But I don't even want anyone to give them to me. If you're not here, then no daisies are needed for me at all. Uncle Leo is very nice. He loves me and Mom and helps us with everything. We live in his house now because we were kicked out of our old one by Senor Bustamante, and he sold it. It's even better. Everything there reminds me of you. Even those swings you never got to hang. Uncle Leo hung them near his house. When I swing on them, I close my eyes and imagine you're here, threatening to catch me and tickle me. I love you so much, Daddy, and I will never, ever forget your kind eyes and funny laughter. Mom won't forget either. Your little mouse, Vi. A gentle breeze rustled the thin sheet of paper with neatly written, complex letters. Daisies were drawn on the edges, more eloquent than words, a symbol of filial love. The following day fell on a Sunday. Tori woke up earlier than everyone else. She always woke up early, just like her father, and left the house. The girl's legs went weak when she saw it. A bouquet of delicate daisies was attached to the swing ropes with a light blue ribbon. No, it couldn't be. Tori's heart raced with furious intensity, making it difficult for her to breathe. Tori ran closer and started kissing the flowers as if it were her father, not the white petals surrounding the yellow centers. Dad, Daddy, she whispered, where are you? You're not dead, I know, I've always known. It was quiet all around. The gentle rays of the morning sun caressed Tori's face and shoulders. She smiled. Only she knew the secret. Her dad was alive, he would definitely come back, she just needed to wait a little longer. The girl quickly untied the bouquet and quietly sneaked into her secret spot in the attic, which could be accessed via a staircase directly from the yard. Tori hugged the daisies close to her. Suddenly, she noticed a tiny card inside. To my little mouse V, Victoria read slowly. She kissed the card and tucked it into the pocket of her shorts. There was no doubt, her father was alive, he just couldn't return to them with her mom for some reason. I won't tell anyone for now, Tori decided, carefully placing the bouquet of daisies in a small round vase, where she kept various girly knickknacks, emptying the contents into a box with old magazines. Then Tori brought a bottle of water and poured it into the vase so that the flowers would feel good and delight her with their beauty and tenderness for a long time. Since then, little Victoria became much happier. Maria was even surprised by such changes in her daughter's mood. She thought it was just childhood taking its course. A child cannot be sad all the time. Maria was happy. It was so nice to see Tori smiling again. She even began to invent different fairy tales, just like her father used to do. This happened a week after Tori found the bouquet of daisies tied to the swings. As usual, Victoria left home early in the morning. Mom had already gone to work, and Leo was still asleep because he had returned very late from work the day before. Tori glanced at the porch step. There was a box there. She grabbed it and opened it. Inside was a piece of paper folded several times. Unfolding it, the girl saw something like a map. They used to draw such maps with her dad to plan their walks. Uncle Leo's house. Trees, path, fence, and a little cafe marked with a tick. Tori recognized this cafe, not far from here. They sold very tasty pastries there. The girl had been to this cafe twice with her mom. Tori turned around, listened. Silence. Then the girl ran her hand through her slightly tousled hair and set off on the specified route. Her heart beat strongly, as if it wanted to jump out of her chest. The roof of that cafe had already come into view. Victoria's heart pounded even harder. A man stood near the carved door. Tori couldn't see his face. He wore a black cap and dark glasses. Tori started to feel a little scared. What if he was some shady guy pretending to be her dad to do something bad? But the girl couldn't bring herself to stop and slowly approached the person standing by the cafe. "My little mouse," he said when Tori got very close. "My Tori." No, it couldn't be a stranger, it was her father. "Daddy," the girl cried and rushed to him. "Shoo, my little one. Let's go, I've already ordered pastries and your favorite green tea for you. Why didn't you come? Why did you leave us with Mom? Who was the person we buried?" Tori persisted. "My little bird, I'll tell you everything later. For now, let's just sit here, and you can tell me everything, all right?" Tori nodded in agreement. The cafe had just opened. It was empty and quiet. Who would come here so early on a Sunday morning? The father and daughter sat and chatted quietly. "Why do you live with Uncle Leo?" Miguel asked. "I told you, Senor Bustamante sold the house, we had nowhere to go, and Uncle Leo invited us to stay with him." "And Mom?" She married him?" "No, what are you thinking? Mom loves Uncle Leo as a friend, she told me herself. It means she's willing to help if he needs it, but she's not ready to marry him, like she did with you." "Really?" Miguel asked hopefully. "Of course, it's true. But now you'll come back to us, right? Or are there bad guys after you, trying to kill you? Did you do something bad and now you're hiding from them, huh?" Tori looked at her father with wide eyes filled with genuine childish curiosity and even fear. "No, sweetheart, your dad didn't do anything wrong. Someone else did, but it's very difficult for me to explain everything to you right now, little mouse. Why did you call me here instead of coming to Uncle Leo's house yourself? He's your best friend. He often talks about you. I even saw tears in his eyes. He didn't want us or Mom to notice and turned away, but I still saw. He's good, very good. Mom says you're lucky to have a friend like him, very lucky." "Tori, I was just scared," her father replied. "I was afraid that your mom didn't love me anymore. That she loved Leo. I didn't want to interfere, forgive me, little mouse." "Silly. Let's go to Uncle Leo's quickly. Or do you want to go to Mom's work? It's nearby. Smile Bakery." "Yes, I know, honey, I've seen it. But I can't do it now. I need to go out for some business today. You know what? I'll come back tonight. Don't tell Leo and Mom for now, okay? And now let's go. It's time for you to go home, and I need to go about my business. See you in the evening." They left the cafe and went in opposite directions. Tori literally ran home. She was in a hurry to make it before Uncle Leo woke up. She did. The girl flopped onto the swing and started swinging quietly, trying to catch her breath and calm down a bit. All day Tori had been waiting for her father. She kept silent, although she was bursting to tell Uncle Leo and her mom, who returned from work around 8 in the evening. "You seem kind of strange today," Maria said, glancing at her daughter, who couldn't sit still for a minute. Dad still hadn't arrived. Could he have lied? No, he couldn't have done that, anyone but her father. But it was time to go to bed, as she had to go to school tomorrow. Tori lay in bed sleepless. She was so happy that today they would finally be a family again. She could see her mom's eyes filling with happiness, and Uncle Leo starting to hug Dad and laughing loudly that he was still alive. But nothing like that happened. Dad didn't come. He just didn't come at all. Were his affairs more important than her and Mom? The girl finally fell into a heavy sleep. She dreamed of some children calling her to play, but when she approached them, one pretty curly girl said, "Your dad left you. He doesn't want to live with you and your mom anymore. He'll soon have a new daughter. He'll call her Little Mouse and tell her his funniest stories." Liar. He didn't leave us. He'll definitely come back. Tori screamed. And then this mean girl approached her and pushed her hard. The poor thing felt herself falling onto her back. "Ah," she screamed and woke up. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" asked the worried mother. "A bad dream? He didn't leave us. You'll see, Dad will definitely come back." "I know," Tori cried, clinging to her mom. "Calm down, my girl, everything is fine, Mommy is with you. And now try to go back to sleep." The next morning, Tori didn't go to school, she had a fever. The doctor said the girl wasn't sick, it seemed more like the aftermath of some stress or exhaustion. He advised her mother to keep the girl at home for a few days and try to cheer her up, give her more attention. Maria stayed with Tori. Luckily, her colleague agreed to cover for her. Tori lay in bed. She didn't want her mom to read to her, she even refused cartoons and her favorite lemon candies. The girl just hugged the soft kitty her dad gave her shortly before all these sad events and silently stared at the ceiling. Maria worried that something bad might happen to her little girl, but she had no idea how to entertain Tori. It was already about 9 in the evening. Leo had just returned from work and was having dinner in the kitchen. Maria was ironing clothes in the living room. Suddenly the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," shouted Leo's wife. "Hello, Maria," said the man standing at the threshold when she opened the door. She looked at him. Their eyes met. They were his eyes, the eyes of her Miguel. They were full of love and tenderness, and light literally emanated from them. This light seemed to envelop, hypnotize, and give a feeling of real happiness. "Miguel?" Maria grabbed the door frame to keep from collapsing. But then who was the person we buried? Why all this farce? "My Violet Forest, please don't worry like this, I beg you. I'll explain everything now. Listen to me. Is Leo at home?" "Yes, he's in the kitchen." Maria stepped back to let her husband, who had died just over 6 months ago, into the house. He came in, dropped the sports bag and the package he was holding, and hugged his wife. They felt like the whole world was left aside. There were only them and their love, which flared up even stronger after this terrible separation. "Maria, who's there?" Leo shouted from the kitchen. "Let's go," the woman stirred. "We have a lot to discuss, as far as I understand. Leo also has the right to know everything." Leo dropped his fork on the table and coughed, almost choking on the rice, when Miguel entered the kitchen. And then he jumped up from his chair and silently hugged his friend. They stayed up past midnight. At first, they couldn't believe that Miguel was alive, but then he told his wife and friend what had really happened. Miguel had a twin brother. He was a spitting image of him on the outside, but inside they were as different as ice and flame. Since childhood, Martin had been inclined towards mischief, whereas Miguel was quite the opposite. All relatives were amazed by such dissimilarity in the brothers' characters. Miguel knew from a young age that he would have a family. He started working part-time while still in school to help his parents. The family always lived very poorly. Martin, on the other hand, only blamed his parents for not being able to provide anything for their children. He didn't want to work. He preferred another way of earning money, fraud. That's what got him caught, landing him behind bars. He was sentenced to 10 years of strict regime labor colony, but he ended up serving 12. They added time for an escape attempt. Miguel never told anyone about his brother, not even Maria. But he didn't abandon him. He regularly sent packages, visited Martin, and supported him as much as he could. However, Martin apparently didn't really need his brother's support. On the contrary, he blamed him for landing him in prison for many years while Miguel managed to find success outside. Their parents didn't live to see their son's release. They passed away within 4 years of each other. The day Martin was released from custody, Miguel said at home that he had a regular workday. Like his friend, he was delivering various goods to stores. In reality, he headed to the neighboring town where the colony was located. He planned to take his brother to their parents' house in a small village and then return home. "Miguel, what am I supposed to do in this hole? Take me with you. I'll find a job. I won't be a burden. I'll even get to know your daughter and your wife," Martin said as they drove away from the colony. "Martin, it's not possible for now. We live in a tiny house. There's no room for you. It's cramped as it is," replied Miguel. "Of course, you never cared about me anyway," the brother muttered. "Let's not go there. You chose the criminal path yourself. I always said that it wouldn't end well, but you just brushed me off. You even mocked me for being a goody two-shoes who listens to mom and dad and reads stupid books instead of hanging out with some cool chick. Isn't that right? What can I say, brother? I was young and foolish," Martin clicked his tongue. "But things will be different now. I just need to get out of this village. There's nothing for me here. I'll end up going downhill again. Martin, listen, we need to take it slow. I'll figure something out, I promise. Just give me some time. I'll help you with money. I'll come visit as often as I can." "Why are you always so righteous, huh?" "It's sickening," grumbled Martin. Miguel stayed silent. He didn't want to argue. He just wanted to live a normal life. Yes, he didn't intend to abandon his brother, but he also didn't want to disrupt his own life. He had recently started this job. There was more money in the family now, and they were considering buying a house, on credit, of course. Leo suggested starting their own business, opening an online store. It was still just an idea, but everything starts with them. And then there was Martin. Miguel didn't believe his brother would change and start living a normal life. There was something in his blood to deceive someone, to pull off something, as long as it brought quick profit without much hassle. Where did this rotten gene come from, which seemed to have been entirely passed down to the younger brother? Martin was born 3 minutes after Miguel. "All right, Miguel, I understand. So I'll have to languish in this little village. I told you, I'll figure something out." His brother raised his voice and abruptly slammed on the brakes. The car jerked. "What are you doing? Are you tired of living or something?" Martin yelled. "Sorry, bro, daisies. Are you out of your mind?" "What daisies?" "Look over there, in the clearing. Daisies. My Tori loves those flowers. Unbelievable. How he loves his sweetheart." Martin said disdainfully. "I've told you 100 times, Tori is my daughter, my wife's name is Maria. Whatever. No woman is worth slamming on the brakes like this on the road, risking your life. And for what? To pick daisies. Disgusting. Wait for me here." "I'll be quick," Miguel said and got out of the car. There were only a few daisies. as if a forest gnome once scattered a few seeds on the ground, which turned into delicate yellow-eyed flowers. Miguel squatted down and carefully began to pick branch by branch. He didn't even hear footsteps behind him, even when Martin was very close, and then a sharp blow to the head and darkness. He woke up in a completely unfamiliar place. His head was bandaged. He was thirsty, and his whole body hurt. Miguel felt so weak that he couldn't move his hands or feet. "Granny, he's awake," a voice whispered, either of a boy or a girl. Miguel didn't have the strength to open his eyes, so he could only guess. "Sister Maria." "So, he'll live," the granny said quietly and placed her dry hand on Miguel's neck. "Pulse is normal. The danger has passed." "Where am I?" Miguel managed to say with difficulty. "In the forest. In our little house with my granddaughter. We live here, as hermits." "Who beat you up so badly and left you in the forest?" "A little more, and you'd have given your soul to God." "I don't remember anything," the man replied and fell asleep. What made two women, one elderly and the other very young, live in this forest wilderness, Miguel never found out. If it weren't for them, he wouldn't have survived. His brother hit him hard on the head with a stone. There was miraculously no brain hemorrhage, but Miguel forgot everything. He couldn't even say who he was or where he lived. "What were you in for?" Dona Leia asked one day. "What?" Miguel didn't understand. "Your passport was lying nearby, under the name Martin Diaz. It's you in the photo." "So, you're Martin Diaz." "Diaz," the exhausted man repeated. "Martin," Dona Leia said. "I don't remember." Like a blank slate. As if I were born yesterday. "And why do you ask what I was in for?" "Because it says in the passport, that's why," the old woman chuckled. Well. So I'm also a criminal." "Aren't you pretending, lad?" the elderly woman asked with a mischievous wink. "I swear to you, I don't remember anything. But somehow I don't feel like a criminal," he smirked. For 2 months, Miguel couldn't get out of bed at all, his head spun, and he suffered from intense weakness. Then gradually he began to recover. But unfortunately, his memory refused to return. Miguel had a small stash of money. Most likely, he intended to give it to his brother and put it separately in the breast pocket of his shirt. With this money, Liliana, the second inhabitant of this forest cottage, bought the necessary groceries every 2 weeks at the store, which was right on the road not far from their dwelling. There was also a roadside cafe. Sometimes the old woman would go somewhere, but Miguel didn't know where. He understood that she went to the city. She would be gone for several hours. "You know, Martin, you are perfectly healthy now. It's time for you to continue living a normal life, if you don't plan to stay here forever, of course," Dona Leia began one evening. "Yes, Dona Leia, I've been thinking about it myself. I'll go to the police. They'll definitely help establish my identity." The police really didn't have to put much effort into figuring out Miguel's case. Almost nothing. "Why did you come, Senor Diaz?" asked the stout policeman, examining the passport. "To show us how well-behaved you are." I need your help. Please help me understand who I am and if I have any relatives," Miguel blurted out in one breath. "Did you leave your brains in jail or what?" "I don't know, but if it weren't for one kind old lady, I wouldn't be here now. She found me in the forest, not far from the highway. She treated my wounds, but my memory still hasn't returned. I'm living in a fog." "Were you registered at an address?" "No, I wasn't. I came straight to you." "Understood. We'll make an inquiry about your case. We'll inform you of the results. Leave your phone number." It was fortunate that Miguel had bought a cheap phone before going to the police. He would have to return to his forest captivity. He had almost no money left, so he wouldn't even be able to afford the most remote room. It took several weeks to find out that the man presenting the passport under the name of Martin Diaz was not Martin Diaz. Fingerprints helped. The police had only one explanation. It wasn't Martin Diaz, but his twin brother Miguel Diaz, who had been buried several months ago. Congratulations, you're Miguel Diaz. There's no doubt about it. Are you okay? Asked the duty policeman. Yes, everything's fine, Miguel replied, rubbing his forehead as if trying to remember something. He remembered. He remembered the face of a cheerful girl. Who was she? The process of resurrecting Miguel Diaz began. At the insistence of the man, nothing was said to his wife. Miguel decided he urgently needed to see his grave. He hoped to remember something. And so Miguel went to the cemetery. Such coincidences happen. He arrived just when his wife, daughter, and friend came to visit the grave of the three people closest to him. Miguel stood behind the trees and watched. The young woman adjusted the flowers and sobbed endlessly while the girl attached something to the plaque. The man's heart contracted and bits of memories floated through his mind. Daisies. Small, delicate flowers he used to gather at the edge of the forest. And then a blow to the head, a strong blow. Darkness. That's all Miguel could remember. He waited until his wife, daughter, and friend left and approached the grave. A thin leaf fluttered gently in the light breeze and rustled softly. This is a letter for me, for the dead Miguel Diaz, he murmured and began to read. Miguel remembered everything. As if the letter written by his beloved daughter Tori was the best medicine for amnesia in the world. At night, Miguel threw a bouquet of daisies where his little mouse Vi found it early in the morning. I was supposed to come yesterday, but I couldn't. Vi probably waited for me all day. Why should she have waited for you? Maria asked in surprise. Buddy, I don't understand, Leo intervened in the conversation. Does Tori know you're alive? Yes, Leo, she knows. We went to a cafe together. I invited her to meet me by leaving a note on the porch of this house. She kept saying she felt you were alive, that you were nearby, Maria said, pressing her hands to her chest. Amazing. And here I was trying to calm her down, distract her. Our little one turned out to be wiser than all of us. Your brother is such a scoundrel, Leonardo spoke up. He wanted to get rid of you. What was he even hoping for? To return home and pretend to be you? I don't know, Leo. I remember he asked me to take him with me instead of taking him to the village, but I asked him to wait. Apparently, he didn't want to wait. Decided to speed up the process. What was he hoping for? Maria exclaimed. That I'm a complete idiot and wouldn't recognize my husband even if he looked exactly like him? I would have recognized him from the first second. Miguel took his wife's hand. Warmth spread through both of them, and their hearts filled with a mixture of joy and boundless happiness. Maria simply looked at her husband and smiled. Let's throw a feast, Leo suddenly exclaimed. The spouses looked at their friend, the best friend in the world, to whom they would be grateful for their entire lives. Mom. Tori's voice came from the second floor. Oh, I'll go check. Maybe Tori's temperature is up again, Maria said, jumping up from her chair. Let me do it. Miguel headed for the stairs. Everything will be fine. The next day, they decided to have a celebration to mark Miguel's return to the family and to this world. Together, they began preparations. You know what I think, Maria said, unloading groceries from the bag. We should go there, into the forest. Let's have the celebration right in the old woman's house with her granddaughter. If not for them, I would have been a widow for life, Maria sighed. Great idea. Leo chimed in. Why didn't I think of that before? Miguel added. And are there squirrels in that forest? Tori asked with curiosity, showing no signs of illness. Of course, sweetheart, there are even gnomes there. Miguel widened his eyes and lowered his voice. Dad. I'm not little anymore. I don't believe your stories. Tori pouted. Oh? That's a shame, it was so much fun before. So, you won't believe what happened to me recently. Even a fairy tale couldn't make it up. What happened to you? The girl asked with interest. I met her in the swamp. Who? Tori slightly opened her mouth and stared at her father. The daughter of the Swamp King, of course, Miguel replied calmly. Dad. You're joking again, the daughter said, offended. Enough chatter, let's get ready for the forest maidens. Leonardo exclaimed loudly. Tori, darling, don't forget about the pineapple sauce. Oh, right, the girl ran to the kitchen. They were cheerful in the car. You know, Leo, I have a feeling you'll be getting married soon, Miguel suddenly said. Me? Buddy, did you hit your head hard if you're saying such nonsense? Me getting married? Funny. I think you and Liliana will find common ground, Maria interjected. Who's Liliana? Maria asked. The granddaughter of the woman who nursed me. She's like a forest fairy. Perfect match for our Leo. Hooray! Uncle Leo is marrying a fairy. They'll have wonderful babies. Tori exclaimed. Leo chuckled. The Diaz spouses laughed. You should think about serious matters, my friend, not nonsense, Leonardo said mysteriously and solemnly. What matters? If you mean work, I'll start looking for it tomorrow. Miguel replied. I need your help, Miguel. We're just a step away from launching our internet store together. You came back at just the right time, buddy. No way. You finally decided on that? You're a champ. Miguel patted his friend on the shoulder and laughed. Holy Virgin Mary, how I missed this laughter, Maria said tenderly, tousling her husband's hair. Daisies! Tori suddenly shouted. They're so wonderful. Just like the ones tied to the swings. That bouquet of delicate flowers that I decided to pick on that fateful day, when my own brother decided to get rid of me, stealing my life, cost us dearly, Miguel thought, swallowing a lump in his throat. Yes, sweetheart. They are indeed wonderful, these favorite daisies of yours, Maria said. Turn right, Leo. The car with its merry passengers entered a fairly wide forest road. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed the story, please support the video by liking it and leaving a comment. Thank you very much.